Okay. Well, we're a couple of minutes early, 1 minute early, but I believe in starting on time. So I will call this meeting to order, and I will ask Jamie Mantooth, Dr. Mantooth, to do the roll call.
Hal Bynum,
Here.
Taylor Cantrell, Moniz Hagler,
Here.
Art Sparks,
Here.
Clinton Smith,
Here.
Johnny Wolfle.
Here.
We have quorum.
We do have a quorum. That's good. In case you didn't know it, we have a new chancellor here at UT Martin. I didn't know whether that had slipped past you. After a long and arduous process, Yancey Freeman, we stole him from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. Yancey is from Memphis, as is his wife. His wife was actually in the first 4-year nursing graduating class here at UT Martin. That's been a couple of years ago, but
Just a couple.
we won't go into that. Yancey and his wife have gotten moved or in the process of getting moved over, and we're very, very happy. I've had a lot of interactions with him, and very, very pleased that Yancey is with us. Yancey, do you have any opening remarks?
Yeah, thank you. I am so pleased to be here. It has been a whirlwind tour, as you can imagine, getting on campus and coming very quickly after the interview process was over. And sort of the first 30 days, I went back and I looked, and I knew I was doing really well at the convocation when Dr. Mantooth, I think it might have been Dr. Mantooth or it could have been Dr. Luter, asked the first-time freshman students, how many of you have had a chance to meet the chancellor? And about 40% of them raised their hand. And so I knew at that point I had gotten around and had a chance to meet a lot of different people, and in particular some of our students. On first count, initial count, this is not scientific, I've had over 200 meetings with different individuals, different meetings across campus, across Northwest Tennessee, already in the first 30 days. And so it has been a whirlwind tour, meeting with everyone from students to legislators. So it has been fun. I've engaged a lot of folks, talked to a lot of people, and there's still a lot of work to be done. So, but I'm really pleased to be here.
I know Yancey is working his way around West Tennessee and everything, and going into some of the high schools and things like that. One of his backgrounds was in student recruitment at UT Chattanooga, and it's funny, my youngest daughter used to be in recruitment here, and she was looking at Yancey, and then all of a sudden it hit her, this is Yancey, the person that we had been dealing with at UT Chattanooga. So we certainly want to welcome him. We will be doing roll call votes today because Moniz is on the phone. So the first item of business is the minutes that have been previously sent out. Are there any revisions or corrections to those minutes? If not, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have first, second. Jamie, will you do the roll call vote, please?
I will. Hal Bynum,
Yes.
Moniz Hagler,
Yes.
Art Sparks,
Here, yes.
Clinton Smith,
Yes.
Johnny Wolfle.
Yes.
Passed unanimously.
I should have mentioned that Dr. Smith came on board because Sterling Anderson went to the dark side, as it's being described. He went to the administration, and Dr. Smith came in as a faculty rep on that. We've had several people that have won the UT President's Award winners, and we actually had them at lunch today. I would like to ask the following people to stand and be recognized. The Embrace Diversity was Henrietta Giles, who's a lecturer, Department of Mass Media and Strategic Communications. Henrietta. The Optimistic and Visionary Award went to Destin Tucker. She is the Director of Undergraduate Admissions. Thank you, Destin. Excel in all we do is Stephanie Colich. She is the Director of Accreditation and SACS Liaison. Thank you, Stephanie. And united and connected, finally, is Dr. Clinton Smith. He's a professor and chair, Department of Education. We certainly appreciate everything that they do. And I got out of order here, but that's okay. I'm the chair. I can do that. We want to recognize Julia Wells. Julia is not with us. Julia has had to resign from the advisory board for some health reasons. We certainly want to recognize Julia personally, whether the chancellor and I have to go down 2 bells and everything, but she has given a lot of time and effort to UT Martin. She gave a lot of time and effort when she was on the Board of Trustees for the University of Tennessee. But again, because of health reasons, she will be resigning. There has not been a replacement appointed for Julia yet. There's some discussion about maybe changing some of the ways that the appointments are made to advisory boards. Randy Boyd is trying to get those changes in place really before they go through and make any announcements of any changes. Yancey, I'm going to turn it over to you for introduction of some people.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We want to make a couple of introductions of a couple of target strategic hires, folks who are new to the campus that I know you'll have a chance to perhaps see again for future meetings or engagement on campus. The first one is Michael O'Neill. Michael serves as the Director of Public Safety. He came to UTC from Minnesota where he worked with the Ramsey.
This is UTM.
Oh,
You said UTC.
I didn't write that down.
All right, that's one.
that's my first one, actually. Okay, Michael came to UTM from Minnesota where he worked with the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office for over 28 years. He is also Command Sergeant Major in the Army Reserve, which is why he is not with us today. He is in service. He is currently in Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri for an Army conference. So let's give him a round of applause. Okay, next we have Dr. Jeffrey Bibby. He serves as the Dean of the College of Humanities and Fine Arts. Dr. Bibby comes to UTM from the University of North Alabama, where he served as a department chair and associate dean in the College of Arts, Sciences, and Engineering, and university historian. Jeffrey's academic appointment is in the Department of History, where he specializes in the history of modern Britain and history education. I know Dr. Bibby is here. Dean Bibby is here if he would stand. So thank you.
Thank you. Next item is, Andy, I'm going to call on Dr. Luter to come forward and tell us about our welcome weekend and the start of the semester, and everything's running smoothly, I would assume.
Yes, I think that is the case. We are very excited about the start of this school year. One of the things that we're seeing here is we seem to be back to pre-COVID engagement with our students. They are excited to be here, excited to be getting involved in the activities and the events and the organizations that we have on campus. And so I want to share some of that information with you today. So first report is in university housing. We've got 1,847 residents currently living with us. We're at 89% occupancy. That's a comfortable full for us. Gives us the ability to offer some private rooms for individuals that want that, and as we need to move some students around, if there's a issue in their housing, gives us a little flexibility to do that. So we consider that comfortably full at that occupancy currently. You can see our first-time residents, returning resident students. We have spent about $917,000 in upgrades in our housing facilities over the summer, which includes some boiler replacements, new lobby furniture, tub repairs and other plumbing issues, new mattresses in one of our buildings, HVAC unit replacements, and a lot of new flooring and paint and things to make our facilities look great as students move back into them. And then we had over 370 volunteers help with our move-in day. And so we ask current students, all our student organizations, fraternities and sororities, faculty and staff to come out and help our new students move in, create a welcoming environment for them. And so we had a great turnout for that piece also. So then for our welcome weekend, you can see the schedule here. We've got a number of events that happened during that time. And one of the new events this year was a welcome home picnic that we did on the night of move-in. We had served over 1,000 people, hamburgers and hot dogs. Faculty and staff helped cook those meals for students and their parents to come out. We invited all the faculty and staff to bring their families out to this event. And so it's just a great atmosphere, low-key, great weather. You got to hang out near our residence halls and enjoy some time together. Also on the schedule was an opening convocation ceremony that we had over in the Elam Center. You can see lots of pep group meetings and informational sessions for our new students to help them settle into the campus and get acclimated here, learn about policies and just the expectations of a student. We had a number of evening activities to keep the students engaged and get to know each other on those weekends. A comedian, we had an outdoor movie, we had a housing block party that's always a great time. And then we do an event with the City of Martin where it's down at the new library. I guess we can still call it the new public library. But this is an opportunity for local businesses to come meet our new students. They get a lot of freebies and food and things like that, so that brings the students out also. It was a great atmosphere there. And then on Tuesday of the first week of classes, we had a student organization fair. Great turnout for our clubs and organizations. Here you can see some pictures of some of those events, but also some of the numbers. You know, we had great participation for those events during our welcome weekend process. And so most of that happens before the first day of class and a few days into the first day of class. But that first week, we have lots of other things going on. Our multicultural affairs area had an exciting array of activities, lots of involvement there. You can see some of those numbers, including we had 82 participants or students come out that were interested in joining one of our National Panhellenic fraternities or sororities. What's not on the screen is we also our first meeting of the Black Student Association had over 90 students come to that event. So we're seeing great numbers and great excitement, as I mentioned earlier. Then in other areas of fraternity and sorority life, our Collegiate Panhellenic Council, which is AD Pi, AO Pi, Zeta, and Chi Omega. Their recruitment happened. They had over 100 bids that were awarded. Our average chapter size for those chapters is 90 students. And then our IFC fraternities, recruitment for there, they offered 73 bids during that process, and our average chapter size is around 52 individuals in those chapters. So good turnout for our fraternities and sororities. Not as strong as it has been, but we're hoping those numbers will continue to grow in the future. We're also always concerned about our students' well-being, both their physical health and their mental health. We offer a lot of programs as we get ready to start the school year to help them understand the resources that we offer in our counseling area, in our student health areas, and helping them understand what's available, and so we're there if they need us. Our message for that has really changed this year. We're moving more in the direction of prevention message. How can we do some things to reduce stress, to help students not get to the point where they're in a mental health crisis or a physical health crisis? So we're encouraging that positive health environment among our students. And then students also need to find employment. So at a student part-time job fair that first week of school, we had 11 employers actually in this room with part-time jobs both on and off campus. And we had 176 students that participated in that part-time job fair. So we continue to help students find a job on campus or off campus. We're gonna do a push over the next couple of weeks, really asking students, if you didn't think you needed a job when you first got here, and now you've decided, maybe I can manage a part-time job, we've got an activity that is coming up soon for our students to help them get engaged and now see what remains as opportunities for on-campus work or even off-campus work. So that's a quick rundown of some of our opening things. Hopefully you were able to see some of the pictures as we went along. Those are all from this year too. The excitement students, there's a lot of joyful faces and the smiles of those students, as you can see. I'd be glad to take any questions if you have.
Dr. Leader, can you explain what a silent disco party is?
I can, so let me maybe back up to a picture of this. Okay, well, too far. The picture in the top corner here, you can see all of those lights. They are wearing headphones. And when you walk into the room, you don't hear the music. So this is in the ballroom. They're all wearing a different set of headphones. They've got the ability to change the music that's coming into their headphones. So we have 3 DJs playing music. You can see if your headphones are blue, you can see everybody else in the room whose headphones are blue. You're dancing to the same music they are. But if it's green or red, they're listening to some different song that's playing. And so everyone's in one room dancing. The music may be different. And if you don't like the song that comes on, you can hit your button and turn to a different song. And so it's great fun. It's interesting to watch. If you don't have on the headphones, you see people moving and they're dancing, and it's an exciting experience. But it's been very popular on our campus. And so
You also can get into a situation where you see everybody with headphones singing a different song, and so they can't hear each other, you know,
Right.
but,
Yes.
the beats are all different, so.
Your Y dorms have been around for a few years. What's going to happen to them?
They have been. We are working on a proposal. We're actually in the programming phase for a replacement of Browning Hall.
Okay.
We don't have the ability to take both of those Y halls down at the same time. We need those beds, but we think we could take one down, replace it, and then make a decision about Ellington later on. Ellington is in better condition than Browning currently. We think we can get some more years out of that. As you might expect, construction costs are very high currently. And so we're working on a financial plan, and at some point we will share that back, possibly in the spring with you, a plan for, we're looking at the need to do a housing rate restructure of all of our housing rates to help them prepare to help do a new build in that area. We've got an exciting plan for what that would look like, and now it's a matter of finding the right mix to pay for that build, and of course also always being concerned about what the price what it would cost students to live on campus. We can't outprice our market here too, so that's what we're working on with those dorms.
And I would think the Y dorm gives you an economical.
It does. I mean, the one thing about both the Y dorms is we own it. We don't have any debt service on those buildings, and so that makes it very cost effective to run.
Yeah.
But, you know, we looked at renovating those buildings, and we could, and that might cost less, but you get no excitement out of the students. It still looks like the same building, even if there's better plumbing or better HVAC, those kind of things.
Okay.
That's where we are.
Any other questions?
Yes.
You mentioned that participation in fraternities and sororities was down. Was that down significantly, or how does that compare?
It continues to be down year after year. I think nationwide, there's less interest in fraternities and sororities. What we're seeing, sororities not as much. I mean, our sorority numbers are still good, but we were probably off maybe 15 or 20 students on the sorority side, less during going through recruitment than we've had here recently. The fraternities were down maybe 10 to 15 students. But there just seems to be less interest in our student body as a whole. And there's cost involved there. There's fraternities in the media nationwide have not always, there's been some bad media reports, those kind of things. we'll see. We promote them a lot. We want students to be involved because they're very engaged students.
I want to emphasize just one thing that Dr. Luter talked about, and that is student mental health and the crisis that is facing higher ed institutions around student mental health, and the work that we will continue to do to shore up services for students on our campus. We met with the Student Government Association executive leadership team earlier this week. I can't remember what day, but it was earlier this week. And one of the first questions they asked about was mental health services and the availability of counselors that are there. And so we have heard it. It is something that is real and approaching us today, and we'll continue to work on providing services to help students who need the service, and for those who don't know that they need it, we'll help them as well as they need to acclimate to our campus.
Hearing no other questions, thank you, Dr. Luter.
Thank you.
Now we'll call on Dr. Cavalier for an enrollment and retention update for the regional centers and the Martin campus.
This is the week of our 14th-day census, and we report to THAC our official numbers for the semester. So the numbers I'm about to share with you are literally finalized this morning, and the news is very, very good. We ended up overall with 6,950 students this year head count, and that's about 75 more than last year, more than the year before. Our first-year class has rebounded very well from 2 years ago. We're at 1,118, and I'll say something more about that in a minute. Our grad programs continue to be very strong. We're at 707 students enrolled in that, and that's 4 years in a row now that we've had 700-plus students enrolled those graduate programs when we were down around 375 5 years ago. Overall, our FTE, that has increased. Of course, that's the driver for our revenue, and we're up about 35 FTE, which is obviously a good sign. Our retention has gone up about 2.5 points, so we're at 73.5%. We were down at 70% 2 years ago. One of the things that I've said several places is that the COVID drop, which dropped us by about 500 students head count, I really felt like that was a COVID blip. And everything that's happened since then has reinforced the idea that we are continuing to do really, really well. COVID set us back and reset those numbers, but we've increased every year since. I think the big thing that I want to mention here, the biggest piece of news, and again, this is just finalized today, and I shared this with Chancellor Freeman. We have hit our highest 6-year graduation rate ever this year. So we're 54, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. 54.8%. The highest previously was 53.3%. So, and that, I want to mention, that's Destiny Tucker's first recruiting class. That's correlation, not causation, but I think it's important to note that there has been work done now for 6 years that has been at the faculty level, at the staff level, Destin's work bringing those students in and helping to get them started. It's obviously been a campus effort, but all those kinds of things that everyone has done, and people who aren't here right now have done, have led to our highest ever 6-year graduation rate. And the next class may be a tick down, but at 5 years, they're already right at around 50%. So those are very positive things. So just in a general way, in terms of these numbers I just shared with you, our incoming first-year class, that's the second highest in the last 5 years. And the highest was the year before COVID. And it's the fourth largest incoming class we've had in the last 10 years. So again, we have recovered really, really well. It's because of a lot of people's work. Really want to shout out Destin and Jamie for all the great work that they've done in recruiting and strategizing about recruiting. And Destin has been running our strategic enrollment management committee for the last 2 years and done a great job with that. So that work has been paying off. I also want to mention Brad Baumgartner, who presented to you. I just mentioned this, the first-year retention. He presented to you in the spring, I think. Is that right, Jamie? Yeah, that's right. So Brad started this summer with a campaign to try and register as many of the 862 students who went into the summer eligible to register, but who had not registered. And really, the trick there was persistence, right? Calling them, texting them, trying to figure out what issues were holding them back, keeping them from registering. And of that 862, and oftentimes when you don't register and leave, you're not coming back, right? That's a really strong message. He got 336 students. His group, his team, got 336 students registered. And it was actually up at around 360. Some of them got dropped for financial reasons, other things. That's about 40% of the students who went into the summer unregistered. That's remarkable. And that's not because there's some program we came up with, there's not some software. It's because those folks were just very, very dogged in trying to make sure that every obstacle was removed from every one of those students so they can make a decision, do I want to be here or not? I think the one area that I want to mention we have work to do, and I think this is related to the community college graduation rates, is our transfer numbers are down this year from about 349, they're at 301. The community colleges have had they've had a dip in their completion rates, at least in West Tennessee. And so that obviously means that we have fewer people coming out with AAs ready to step right into UT Martin. I'm really encouraged and optimistic about the new president at Jackson State. Dr. Carol Rothstein was on that committee, and she was phenomenal. I think she will be a great partner with UTM and help us maximize that Jackson Center, which there's been opportunity there and potential there, but we've needed a partner on the Jackson State side, and I think she will be that. So that's the enrollment retention piece. If you want to ask questions now, and I can just give you a brief update on Ford, I'd be happy to answer.
What's your relationship with Dyersburg State and their new president?
Very good. I mean, he's been working with us on the test hub project.
Yes.
Been involved. I think the opportunities with Jackson State are just more pronounced because we're there.
Yeah.
But we have been, we've worked with several different, who's Nancy Bush over there? Several folks from their campus in addition to the president on trying to figure out what is the space that Dyersburg State needs in the test hub when we get that built. And we're meeting with Southwest Community College in Somerville in a couple of weeks to try and figure out how to expand that partnership because they're on our Somerville campus. Or not campus, staff, regional center, sorry. That's a sex. Other question?
Mr. Chairman, question. What factors contributed to the high percentage graduation rate that you announced? I think you mentioned some of those factors. Can you go over those and let me know whether counseling was a big part of that?
Counseling, mental health counseling, or like advising? Is that Moniz?
Advising.
Yeah. Moniz, I would say that probably at the first year level, first year advising, the first year experience those students had, that was the most important piece in the persistence, right? So right now, if we keep students into their second year, then we usually lose only 8 to 10% of that population going forward. So that's critical. And I know that Dr. Smith, when he got here, was focused very much on trying to make sure that folks were doing what they could to eliminate barriers for those first-year students. Like I said, this number we just finalized today, and Moniz, I'd be happy to go through and try and figure out with our institutional research director if there's any pattern there that we could see and try and repeat in what we're doing. But I think it's, what is it in psychology, the Hathorne effect? When people constantly talk about retention, then everybody's focused on retention because they keep hearing it. And I think Dr. Smith and later Chancellor Carver were very much focused on that.
How do we compare it to our peers that are out there as far as retention and growth?
You know, I don't have those numbers, Art. I'm trying to remember what the last presentation I saw. We are ahead of some of our LGIs with that 74%, certainly. You know, when we're compared to other schools across the state, I can't remember what UTC has run at roughly.
UTC? I don't know that institution at all.
I thought I heard that mentioned.
Usually somewhere in the mid-70s.
Yeah.
in
I
terms
think-
of first-year retention?
I think low 70s, mid-70s is roughly where regional comprehensive land comfortably. So the question is, how do you get to 80% and to be exceptional? And I think Brad and others, that kind of work is part of what does it. But as part of our SACS reaccreditation visit and that whole process, we're doing basically a rethink of the entire first-year experience. And if that gets done right, all you need to do is keep 20 more students to really push that number. This is not a matter of getting 1,000 extra. It's just who might we be losing now that we could be keeping.
The last information I was able to review, we do really, really well against our comparable peers. Based on what THEC has designated for us as comparable peers, we do really well in terms of a first-year enrollment for first-time freshman students. Retention rate, we tend to run ahead of them, especially looking at the last 5 years. In graduation rate, I think we will knock it out of the water this time based on this rate that's just been reported. And so I think we do really, really well. We are competitive with our aspirational peers also. Some of those areas we're not faring as well with them in terms of graduation rates. Looking at the diversity of student enrollment, there's more work we need to do there, but very competitive with our aspirational peers also.
And at the board meeting in June, the system IR office put together basically for every campus a comparison of, I don't know the first-year retention was on that,
Yeah.
but 6-year graduation rates and other things with our peers, aspirants, and then SEC.
That's right.
So that might be something that would be useful for the board to.
We certainly can provide that
Okay.
information either at the next board meeting, or we can send in a separate message to you so that you can review and have questions for us at the next board meeting.
One of my questions is always gonna be, how are we doing against our peers?
Yeah.
In most anything, really, when it's all said and done. Do any of the other board members have any questions on the enrollment and retention before Dr. Cavalier gets in the Blue Oval City? Then,
Okay. So since we last met, we have run, at our Somerville Center, we hosted about just under 40 K-12 teachers to do a 2-day workshop to learn about mechatronics and manufacturing 4.0, to meet with some of the Ford folks. And that's all in an effort to try and help those teachers understand what is going to happen at Blue Oval City, so that they go and talk to the parents who don't understand what's going to happen, and ideally get those parents and those students thinking, okay, this is not what I thought manufacturing was going to be. This is something very different, and there are very different skills necessary in order to succeed in those kinds of jobs and to be prepared for those jobs. Out of that, through the request of several people who were in that workshop, we created then a 5-session workshop where 6 or 7 of those teachers came back and they basically worked on a more advanced mechatronics workshop. They wanted to know more about the details. How do you do these things? How do you work with all the robotics and the PLCs and things like that? That was wildly successful. We just got finished with that. And so right now the question is, how are we going to scale that up? And it's easy to do as long as you have money. And I think Ford has recognized the value of what we're doing, and they also recognize that you need to do that at a huge scale to shape the culture that they think they need for the workforce that they're going to need in West Tennessee. So we'll see where that goes. I think the other thing, and I might have mentioned this in June, we continue to talk with Ford about how the Somerville Center could best how they could best use the Somerville Center, BOSK, SK Battery, the other suppliers for onboarding, for getting equipment in there and doing testing and assessment and remediation on certain skills. We have not gotten from them a definitive answer on we want to do this or that, but we continue to have those conversations. And so I think that continues to be a real viable possibility that we will renovate the back half of the Somerville Center, and Ford and the others will be players in that.
any questions on Blue Oval City? Thank you very much, Dr. Cavalier. We will go to the College of Business and Global Affairs update by Dr. Charlie Deal.
Good Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to practice the 5 B's of public speaking. Be brief, brother, be brief. That's a joke.
I got it.
You got it, okay, thank you. We're joined today by our illustrious Dean of the College of Business and Global Affairs, Dean Tucci, who challenged his faculty and staff as well as his advisory board to come up with funds to provide for a study on what a new College of Business and Global Affairs building would look like. Today, this is what we have, and many of us spent a lot of time in this building. Started out as Browning Hall, a residence hall. Football team lived in Browning Hall for many years. But what would the College of Business building look like in the future? Still on the same footprint in the east end of the quad. This is the view from, this is what something might look like, conceptual drawing. This would be the view from the quad looking east. Very modern looking building. This was actually looking from the east looking west. So this would be the street, Loveless Street. And the building itself would shift more toward the street and have a more pedestrian-friendly area between the street and the main entrance to the building. Again, this would be, if you were at the Baptist Collegiate Ministries building looking back toward Gooch Hall, how the layout of the building would look. Again, a very open floor plan. That's one of the things that our faculty and staff had talked about that they wanted. Much like what is in the Latimer Smith building right now. And Petra and her team have done amazing work, Dana Hagan, in making sure that all the drawings are fitting with what our expectations are from our donors. Again, this is just a very quick layout of where we are. Again, pushing it back toward the street a little bit more, shifting the parking, having more area in front of the building for our students to be able to gather. Speaking of gathering, again, open concept. A lot of our industry partners are talking about how our students need to be able to collaborate and work together in small groups. Again, this is much like what's taking place in Latimer Smith, where the students have small breakout rooms where they can do group work together. Classrooms that can be easily converted into boardrooms or whatever the case may be at that particular moment. It's very open. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Dean Tucci, all the faculty offices are on the top floor and everything else is on the first and second floor as far as this. Timeline of the project, and that's the main reason I was asked to give this. If we receive approval in July of 2024, we are number 4 on the UT's projects list right now. If we receive approval in July of 2024, construction would begin in late 2025, early spring 2026, and we could be offering classes in there as early as the fall of 2028. The price of this project is $56.5 million. We have already secured the private funds to match that, which was $3.39 million. We have a signed agreement. The individual used their charitable foundation, family's charitable foundation to pay for the entire price. But this one will allow us to also name rooms on the inside, and that's what we plan to do. We'll be looking, once we get a firm layout of the building, we'll be able to put naming opportunities out. Those will be used to establish funds for student research projects, those types of things, as well as professorships and distinguished professorships. And we always have the need for scholarships. So as you can see, it's a very, very nice facility that would complement between Gooch Hall and Latimer Smith building. Told you I'd be very brief. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Would this building only have the School of Business and Global Affairs?
College
Okay.
Business and Global Affairs, yes. Dean Tucci, did I leave anything out? Did I leave anything out? Very good.
I did notice that from when these were printed out to up there, the price has gone up $3 million, but you need to hurry up and get it built.
I'm not gonna say a name, Peter, but, I mean, yes, the price had gone up a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're very conservative in our budgeting on that.
Any questions for Dr. Deal on this particular capital project? And we're gonna, in fact, Petra's coming up, and one of the things she's gonna cover are the capital projects that are going on, so.
Very good.
Hearing no questions, thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Petra? I haven't had any digs on you today so far, Petra, about not giving out money and stuff like that.
Not yet, right? So, the meeting is still young, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I will start with an overview of our fiscal year 2023 year end. Of course, the numbers that are represented here are actually unaudited. Our fiscal year ends June 30 June 30 of every year. The Controller's Office closed the year just a few weeks ago in mid-August. So looking at our revenue, fortunately, we were able to be a little bit ahead of the curve at $482,000 over what we had budgeted for the revenue. And then looking a little bit closer at where our revenue is generated, you'll notice that the largest part is generated from tuition and fees, followed by our state appropriation at approximately 51% for the tuition and fees and 35% for state appropriation. Looking a little bit closer at our largest revenue source, you'll note that our revenue is generated, and this just kind of gives a little bit about where the classes are offered. On campus, we're looking at about 59%. Online is at 29%, and the regional centers and dual enrollment make up about 11%. Shifting a little bit to our expenditures, we were able to be below budget, which is a good thing as well, for our expenditures, with our largest expense being in the instructional area, which is expected, followed by student services and scholarships and fellowships. Again, looking at the percentages for those, our instruction is at 39% of our total expenditures. Student services is 14%, and the scholarships are 12%. And then a different view of our revenue and expenses, when you look at the natural classification of our expenditures, our salaries and benefits comprise 64% of our budget, and the operation is at 34%. A closer look at our expenses, when you look at the salaries, we'll note that our faculty salaries, followed by staff salaries and student salaries, show how much that we have in those various areas, with faculty salaries at 32%, staff salaries at 37%, and our benefits run at 29%. So we were fortunate to close the year in good shape, and we look forward to an equally successful year in 2024. Do you have any questions about our fiscal year 2023? Again, these are unaudited numbers.
I think it's amazing you're able to budget as closely as to the actuals as you did, both on all categories. I think that shows a lot of detail work. That's pretty amazing, that close in nearly every category.
So we have multiple budget iterations. We start with the proposed budget, look at revised budget, and then we have another budget called the probable budget. So we try to get as close to what's actually happening as possible and make reallocations and adjustments as the year occurs.
Any questions for Petra? Good presentation.
To your peer question earlier, the salaries of staff and faculty, how do we index compared to our peers in that category?
In higher education, this is about what we do. Most institutions are very salary heavy. And so in terms of each of the categories, I would have to take a closer look at that. But we are very heavily, of course, we're a service institution, and therefore that's going to be our biggest expense.
Well, I was actually inquiring about, do we pay as well as our peers?
Oh, well.
You keep good people by
It
paying
depends on
them,
who
you
you
know.
ask. We are at a lower end of our market range for several of our different salaries. We did increase our minimum for staff to $13 per hour. Our goal is to get to $15 an hour over the next few years, and then continue to grow beyond that. We may have to be a little bit more aggressive to be competitive. We do have a lot of staff vacancies because of the wages that we pay. A large percentage of that includes our fiscal plan. To give an example, on our grounds crew, we have 8 positions that covers 320 acres, and we only have 5 people doing that. We also have to rely heavily on student workers, and it's been difficult to get those recruited. So we're struggling there, and unfortunately, we don't have everything looking as well as we'd like for it to happen. But there's a lot of effort being put in trying to get those things covered. But it's just a challenge, particularly with Blue Oak City coming into play, and just some of the other businesses are in fact paying more. We do offer benefits that are better than a lot of those places, but the trade-off isn't always. I mean, sometimes you want to see what's going to help buy a gallon of milk versus kind of look at the future.
Thank you.
Other questions? Then why don't you move to the capital update then, Peter?
All right, so moving to our capital projects, we have about 21 projects that we managed during the last year or so that total a little bit more than $129 million. So we'll go through our completed projects, starting there. We actually were able to make some improvements on our first floor east side restrooms to meet ADA. And just the before and after gives you a good glimpse of that. We were fortunate to have that area that's near the dining hall and the bookstore restored and renovated rather. And that gives a little bit better ease for ADA compliance. Our next item also is on the first floor. It's the Sodexo Center area for the offering of Freshens. So we had to make some adjustments there. Freshens has been a really good addition to our food offerings on campus. And every time I go to the food court area, I see someone in line for Freshens. And if you haven't had a chance to eat some of their food, I enjoy it and hope that you will as well. The next project deals with the Elam Center Arena lighting upgrade. If you've been in the arena, you can actually see in there. So we're very fortunate to have that project completed. And then, of course, the Latimer Smith building, it continues to be a process of finishing out some of our warranty items, but that project has been completed. And we actually had classes there for the first semester in the spring. So we're sort of settling in there, but very fortunate to have that building. Moving on to projects in construction. If you've been to the Elam Center or passed by there, you'll notice that the mall glass project is underway. We hope to have that project completed in early 2024. And so the goal is to not have buckets in the mall during games, right, or any activities, and have the course of trying construction, and we anticipate having it finished this month with the construction of the building itself, and then we're also working on the installation of the fountain and kiosk for that building. The goal is to actually be able to have it dedicated at home. Moving on to the indoor batting facility. The batting facility is under construction with work starting in the fall of 2023. If you recall, it replaces an existing, a structure that was torn down to put it there in the same location. So we plan to have that finished in the fall, and this is a rendering of that facility. Another project that we had is the ROTC building brick project. It actually is the result of an earthquake that we had some time ago where brick detached from the building some, and we needed to replace that as well as some of the windows. Then we have a few other projects that are currently in design. Several of us are, I won't say displaced, but in different locations scattered across campus now as a result of the systems upgrade that will occur in Hall Moody building. The Chancellor's office, along with several other departments, are located in EPS. I have the fortune of being on the 4th floor of Clement Hall. I have not been visited by the ghost yet, but I'm waiting for her to come and visit and say hello. And it will probably determine my work schedule from here on out. No more late nights, right? All right. And so the building will look the same. The bones of it will hopefully be different. Well, will be different, but will function better. Grove Apartment demolition. We are, actually that project will be bid next week, and we hope to have it completed and demoed by early 2024. So we will be excited about that, and we'll hope to be able to use that space for a lot of programming and do a lot of town and gown type of activities there. Next, EPS. So I did mention the Chancellor's office is in EPS now, but we also have a project slated for that building. It will be on the east side of the building, which is the quad side, and it too is a systems upgrade project. Next, we have the test hub. The test hub is being designed as we speak. We are actually seeking additional funding to supplement the state funding that was given to us, the $18 million. Of course, as we talk about construction costs and how things have increased, in order to prevent us from reducing the scope significantly, we're pursuing federal funds to help with that project. And again, that is one of the ones that is a partnership among several institutions, with it being UTM, the TCAT, including community college, and the TCAT location as well. And then the sewer line, sometimes we have those pipes that don't hold up or deteriorate over quite a bit of time. This particular project is actually in our dining hall. It would affect the kitchen area and the dishwashing area. So we would have to actually time that one when there are not as many students. So we're looking at a summer of 2024 to get that project accomplished, because we don't want to disrupt dining services to several of our students. Sewer lines continued in several different places, so we just want to make sure that we have the right flow. A lot of those pipes have actually deteriorated. Our next project is Clement Hall, which would be phase 2. If you all recall, we were able to create the one-stop shop and do several floors, 1 through 3, in that building. And so looking at the north side of the building, we would like to complete the fourth floor as well as the, getting the east side completed in that building. Then we'll have a submission for a third part, and in the end, the goal is to have Clinic Hall fully operational with better systems. So we have to do that in multiple phases.
Is that going to be a residence hall, or what will be in that section?
It is, all of it is still student services.
Okay.
So everything is geared towards it being kind of a hub for student
Okay.
service areas for students.
Makes sense.
And so this is just an example of which part of the building that we will do in phase two. Moving on to athletic facilities, there is a project to deal with the baseball, soccer, and track fields. So we hope to have that improved, and that's in design. And then we also are wrapping up security improvements. We were able to complete a lot of hardware on doors, particularly for the classrooms, so that they can be locked from within inside. And we have a little bit of about $300,000 of residual funds that we're starting on some of the offices that will allow them to lock inside. And this is just an example of just a quick inside lock with the Graham Hall has a project to replace its envelope, primarily the doors, for those. And we are in the process of getting that done. Hopefully we get that done before the end of fall 2023. We also have a project for Elam Center improvements, and that would include our men's locker room, as well as replace scoreboards in the emergency room. ADA campus upgrade, we do have a project for it that will touch multiple places. We had a consultant identify several areas that we need to make ADA improvements. So we are working a list of those places across the campus so that we have better ADA access. The Elam Center exterior walls, again, we need to replace some brick on the walls there. That would be on the north and south wall of the Elam Center. So we have a previous project that did the east and the west, and that we need to do the north and south. South Chiller Plant is another project. We have projects going on all over campus, and that is just to replace a chiller that is at its end of useful life so that it's big enough to continue to serve our campus. So that wraps up an overview of the multiple projects that we have going on for campus, for our facilities. Do you have any questions?
What do you think the biggest hurdle will be on the business building that's coming up?
There are just so many competing
Yeah.
needs. Last year, the UT system did not receive any funding for capital outlay. So I believe the biggest hurdle was just going far enough down our list of requests to have it funded. But
Okay.
I've already started some conversations with President Boyd about moving us up higher than fourth on the list for the business building, and so hopefully some of that will work. Most of you know that there has been, without the Latimer Smith building, there had probably been, I think Peter told me 40 years, maybe 60 years since we had a new building on the campus. That is way too long for us, and so hopefully we will be able to use a little bit of influence to get them to move us up on the list, given the needs for our business school and making sure that we can continue to go. So we've started those conversations, and as we go down the capital projects list this upcoming year, hopefully we'll be able to move up further on that list.
Good. Any questions? Teacher, thank you. Comments by the Chancellor?
So, three really quick things, well, four, but one we've already talked about. The capital projects piece of this is going to be critically important, that if we want to grow enrollment, we have to keep facilities that are up to date and that, you know, allow for the innovative teaching that's happening in the classroom. So we will continue to push on some of those capital projects. I know typically when you see construction on campus, you think, oh my goodness, all of this construction, how do I get around? How do I, you know, continue to demonstrate improvement? But construction means improvement. It means that we care about the nature of the campus and what's happening on the campus. And so while there are a lot of lists on the projects, of things on the list, I know Peter and that team are running as fast as they can to get those things done, but it shows and demonstrates improvement for the campus and care for the campus, so we're proud of that. Salary and compensation, the second thing is it will continue to be at the forefront of my mind as we go forward. Paying a livable wage, making sure that we are competitive in the market is something that has been important and will continue to be important for the campus as we continue to look at wages and salaries for faculty, staff, and students on the campus as well. So we will do more study. We made it to $13 minimum an hour. In particular for those staff members who are paid at the lowest level, we want to continue to try to push, as Peter said, to get it to that minimum $15 requirement, or that minimum $15 amount that's there. So we'll keep doing that and continuing to look at ways that we can do it. A couple of new things for you. One, if you did not have a chance, there was a special call board meeting this morning, and during that board meeting, the ERS committee, the Education Research Service Committee, approved a new admission requirement that will be effective for all of the University of Tennessee institutions. It is a guaranteed automatic admission requirement across the entire UT system, of course excluding the Health Science Center for the undergraduate campuses. And those requirements are that if students are in the top 10% of their class, they would receive an automatic guaranteed admission from any of the institutions. If they have a 4.0 high school grade point average and graduate from a Tennessee high school, they would receive a guaranteed automatic admission. And then for the undergraduate campuses at Martin, Chattanooga, and UT Southern, if students have a 3.2 and a 23 ACT score, they will receive an automatic admission to the institution. Those are the minimums for an automatic admission. Those are not the minimums for admission into Martin, into our campus. And so we do have some admission standards that we will continue to follow as an institution, but thought it was incredibly important to have a streamlined admission process, because right now all of the different campuses have different admission requirements. So as we continue to get ahead of how do we come out of COVID in a way that says education is important, higher ed is important, this is an investment that you want to make, trying to streamline what families in Tennessee see as an opportunity to attend higher ed. This was a chance for us to do this as a UT system. So that was approved. That third tier, the 3-2-23, Knoxville is continuing to study right now. They do have some capacity issues around housing and some other things that would make it incredibly difficult for them if they had, 500, 1,000 more students who decided to enroll from an automatic admission standpoint. So we are pleased with this. We think this is a really good spot for us in terms of encouraging students to think about Martin as an option. And so we will go forward and promote this new guaranteed admission plan in time for the fall of 2024 term. So that was the impetus for doing this in a special session. So that is here. The final thing I will talk about is I am going to hold some town halls to talk about access and engagement for our campus. It is critically important that this is a place that is welcoming for any student, faculty, or staff member who is here. And so I have I've been working with Dr. McLeod, Mark McLeod, and the cabinet to talk about and think about what does an access mission mean for the campus. And when I think about access, I think about, for myself, I'm a first-generation college student. Any first-generation college student should feel comfortable and welcome here on our campus, and we want to provide resources for them to be able to be successful. If you are someone with a physical or learning disability or a learning difference, we want to make sure that we have resources that are here to support them that would allow them to be successful on the campus. If we have a number of veterans who are enrolled on the campus, and so if you come from one of those specialty groups where you might be considered an underrepresented student on the campus, then we want to make sure that they can be successful. And so we're going to talk quite a bit over the next couple of months about this mission, this access mission, about how we recruit and retain students, faculty, and staff on this campus. I am excited about the discussion, excited about the possibilities of what that will mean for this campus that has given so much heart to transformational life after getting a degree. And so it is going to be exciting. I am happy about it. We will talk with folks across the campus about what that means and try to get some investment on this access mission going forward. So looking forward to those discussions and looking forward to reporting back what we find out and what we hear and what it means to be an access campus in that way.
Any questions for Dr. Freeman? I have had the opportunity to work with him on a few instances. Probably the first thing I did was challenge him not to be anybody but Yancey. He was hired because he's Yancey, and we want him to act like he's Yancey with all that's said and done. I feel very comfortable that he's going to do that. I also challenge Dr. Freeman to call on us. You know, when you go on these town meetings, if one of them's in Jackson, at least let Johnny know that it's there and let the rest of us know, because we're here and we've got your back, and we want to help you promote UT Martin.
Thank you, sir.
In any way you go. So I challenge you to reach out and ask. The worst that can happen is say, hey, I've got something else to do. But please do that. And remember, we're here for the students. I mean, and your interaction with the students is very, very impressive, and hope to continue it, because it's personal relationships that's going to bring students to UT Martin and nothing else. Which is all the closing remarks I have. Do y'all have any remarks? Jamie, when will our next meeting be?
January 26, 24.
Okay. January 26th of 24 will be when we elect a chairman for this time. My term as chairman runs through June of 24, and my time on this advisory board, which will be my last year, runs through June of 25. I'm going to hope that we have and elect a new and different chairman for the 24-25 year. I will still be there sitting in one of these chairs and asking questions and things like that. But I think that would probably be the best thing to do and get it on a rotation that works out. So I'm giving you that fair notice right now for the January meeting. I don't mind telling you, I resigned as chairman of the Joint Economic Development Council 2 years ago, and they still haven't accepted my resignation, but I'm working on that as hard as I can. Anything else? Moniz, thank you for joining us. We would rather have seen your face here, but we certainly understand not having to make the long trip. If she is still with us. She's gone. Okay. Then I will entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I think we have to have a roll call on that.
Al Bynum,
Yes.
Moniz Hegler.
Yes.
There's Moniz.
All right. Art Sparks,
Yes.
Clinton Smith,
Yes.
Johnny Wolford.
Yes, sir.
Passed unanimously.
Sounds good. I appreciate your time and effort. Moniz, thank you very much.